How is everybody doing?
We're good.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I am Hala Jaloudi, and I am so super excited to be holding this session. I just want to say congratulations. You guys who are listening are awesome and amazing, and you are truly the leaders. You are the learners of today and the leaders now and of tomorrow. You have taken the first step, and I'm so excited to be with you. And I'm gonna just be looking at the chat just in case. I want to make sure that all is going well. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. So my name is Hala Jaloudi. That the first name is spelled H-A-L-A, Hala, as in hallelujah. So hallelujah, I'm so excited that you guys are here. So I am an attorney. I've been a practicing attorney for over 25 years. Right now, I am in litigation, which means that I go to court, file suit, and primarily what I focus on are personal injuries. So I fight for the rights of those who have been wronged, who sustained injuries as a result of negligence. But I also served as a public defender for a number of years. I also was a Board of Health attorney. I am talking to you from Hohokus, New Jersey. My practice is primarily in Paramus, New Jersey, as well as Jersey City, New Jersey. So that's a little bit about me. Again, I'm looking at the chat, and I am told questions will begin. And please ask questions. Let me know, first of all, why you selected this session. I'd like to know, what you want to hear. This is not just about me talking, but I really want to hear from you. So again, thank you so much for being here. So as you know, the title of this session is No Justice, No Peace. Are you your brother's keeper? So let's talk about that for a minute. And I want to put the question out there. And if you guys can share in the chat, that would be amazing. So first, I want to know, what does no justice, no peace mean to you? What is that phrase? When that phrase is spoken, what are you thinking? What is your heart saying? What is your head saying? What does it mean to you? Because it could mean different things for different people. So, excuse me while I get my notes here. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know when this phrase kind of became a little bit more in common use, and it was in 1986 it originated, and that's not completely 100% clear. It may have originated before. So in 1986, following the murder of Michael Griffith at the hands of a white mob, and Michael Griffith was an African American, and he was murdered by a white mob, and this phrase became more in use. So what does it mean? Does it necessarily mean that it means violence, that if we don't have peace, we're going to be violent? Well, not necessarily, right? So if you, one reading of it, right, could mean that as long as injustice prevails, then acting peacefully is a moral impossibility. right? That is one reading of it. But is that necessarily so? I put the question out there for you guys. Is that necessarily so? And I'd like to know. Okay, somebody typed here. When people are the victim, but they're still being charged, yes. It relates to injustice. It relates to, um, it's a political slogan that originated in protest, really, to ethnic violence against African Americans by white Americans. But what does it mean? Is it a threat? Is it is it saying that if we don't have justice, we are going to be violent and we are going to act in a certain way? Well, it depends on how you listen, how you hear it, and how you feel about it. Um, as you all know, Martin Luther King believed in peaceful demonstration. And if you take his philosophy, and Martin Luther King said, there can be no justice without peace, and there can be no peace without injustice. So, in this context, it doesn't have any violent insinuations in it. It just simply means that in order for society to exist in peace, that people have to be treated justly. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat. Okay. So in that line of thinking, right? In the Dr. King's line of thinking, it means without justice, peace will be an elusive goal, right? And without peace, injustice will continue. As you all know, right now in the current climate that we're living in, a lot is going on, right? Politically, um, as well as what's happening with people feeling that there is a lot of injustice, and they're out in the street voicing that, and that is a right that we have to because injustice, excuse me, to anyone affects injustice to all of us. There can be no justice if a group of people are treated with injustice. So again, I'd like to hear from you. Good morning, TJ. Yes, TJ. When people are the victim but are still being charged. So I want you guys to think about that. To think about, what does it really mean? What does that phrase really mean? And how can we elevate to the next level? Along those lines, right? In our talk, we talked about immoral acts versus illegal acts, the difference between morality, what is moral, and what is legal. Does it, I'm going to pose another question for you guys out there. Does it mean that every illegal act is also an immoral act and vice versa? Do they go hand in hand? What do you guys think? I'd like to know that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are connected. They are connected, right? But there is a difference between morality and law. On the one hand, the two differ, since we believe some acts to be immoral and some laws to be unjust, right? For example, the question poses itself. We may not steal or lie or kill. Are we doing it because it's an immoral act, or are we doing it because we're fearing punishment, right? There are certain things that are not considered illegal, um, but we as human beings may view them as immoral. What do you guys think about that? TJ, what do you think? I'd like to know. Um, you are active on the chat, and thank you so much. Thank you. Um, so it's possible to have morality without law or law without morality, um, but they are connected and they go together. So the idea is that our laws, what's legal, what's illegal, is based on moral concept, um, and what we believe as a society to be moral or immoral. So, in essence, our laws are codifying our morals, our values. Um, but again, a lot of things may be considered illegal, or rather legal, but they may not be considered immoral. Okay, just looking at TJ says, I see the morality mixed with law to be very confusing for people judging it. Yes. Thank you, TJ. It is connected, illegality and immorality, or morality or legality, because we'd like to think that all of our laws are codifying our moral values. However, again, sometimes something may be considered legal, and we may not feel about it. We may not feel that it's right, that it's just, but under the law, it may not be considered illegal. And there is the conflict and there is the confusion. Because I think a lot of times what one person may consider immoral or not fair or not right or not ethical, another person may not. So it is connected. But yes, TJ, I agree with you. It gets a little bit confusing. But again, the question poses itself. When we refrain from committing an act because we know under the law that there will be consequences, that there will be punishment, the question is, are we not doing that act because our moral compass tells us that I don't believe in this, this is not right? Or are we just doing it because we're fearing the consequences? So just to define it, so morals are basically concerned with principles of right and wrong behavior, with the goodness or badness of human character, if you will. And law is a system of rules that a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of members of that community. And so, what is a moral obligation? What is our moral obligation? An obligation is a duty which one owes and which one performs, but a person is not legally obligated to fulfill. So, in other words, yes, you may be required to take an action because by law you have to, and that may in turn be the moral or right thing to do. But moral obligations, in my mind, are at a higher level. It's you're doing it even if you don't have a legal obligation to do that. Okay, how are you guys doing? I wish I can hear you. I wish I can see you. But I'm so excited that you're here. And please, if you have any questions, I was hoping that we could interact with one another, but the chat is open, and I can interact with you that way. Okay. Now, if you think about it for a moment, which leads into the next concept of what I wanted to share with you. So, we're talking about morality, um, legality. Um, we're talking about, no justice, no peace. In my mind, all of these things are connected and also connected to the question of, are you your brother's keeper? What does that mean? Um, Probably all of you know that that phrase originated in scripture, right? With Abel and Cain. Um, so, am I my brother's keeper? What does that mean? What is the moral or legal obligation that we have? Is it, it's interesting because, are you required, for example, to report a crime? And maybe you'll be shocked, or maybe you won't be shocked to know that every state differs in the US, but there is, with the exception of a few crimes that involve children, um, there's no legal requirement for one to report a crime, right? And the rationale behind that, I believe, stems from the fact that sometimes people are afraid that if they report a crime, there may be retaliation against them from the person they're reporting. Although there are, anonymous calls and tips that um, the witness can utilize. However, it's an interesting concept where there is no legal obligation to report a crime. Then we revert back. But, you know, people may see something and it may affect their morals, their values, their heart and soul, and they want to report it. So all of these concepts are really connected to one another. In the law, there are a few things that where you are held as your brother's keeper. For example, if you are an employer and you have an employee who does something wrong, then you are held under a legal theory of respondent superior. The employer is held accountable for the actions of the employee. Um, but as a blanket rule of are you required to report a crime? Again, every state differs and they have their own rules, but generally speaking, the answer is no. Now, um, this leads me to really what I wanna talk to you about because um, you guys are in your teen years and you are amazing teens because the fact that you are here right now um, indicates that your level of consciousness and you are truly the leaders. And I'm sure all of you are um, with your friends, with in society, especially during these teenage years, you might be put in situations that may lead to um, maybe just you being uncomfortable, or maybe you are in a situation where someone is doing something wrong. And are you going to be held guilty by association? What is your obligation? And my my primary concern for you as teen, and by the way, I have two teenage sons. One is 16 and the other is 14. And every time they step out of the house and set foot out with their friends, my guidance to them is please make smart decisions, um, because they may not be doing something wrong, but if they are in a group where something is happening, will they be guilty by association? What is their obligation to remove themselves from that situation? And these are things that right now, especially at your ages as teenagers, that's what you have to be concerned with. And these could be, consequences and situations which could really affect your life and where you're going, and a decision to be in the wrong place at the wrong time could have consequences on your life. So I wanna explore that with you. I wanna see what you think about that as well. You're in a group, something is happening. What do you do? Do you have the tools to do that? To protect yourself, basically, um, from legal consequences and just um, your belief system, not even just legal consequences, consequences about how you feel about yourself. How do you feel about that? I'm just reading the chat, guys. Okay. So, having said that, I want to shift a little bit and talk about all of these things, you know, whether we say no justice, no peace, whether we are comparing morality versus legality, whether we're discussing are you your brother's keeper, whether we are in a situation where we want to make sure that we are not lumped in a group, perhaps in an act or action that we don't want to be in. All of that, I believe, goes back to our ability to communicate properly and our ability to really um, follow our heart and not just the crowd, right? So, communication, and I bring, excuse me, and I bring communication into the mix because that is, you know, the unique tool that we as human beings possess, right? We have the highest level and ability of communicating with one another as opposed to, you know, other other things in the animal kingdom, right? So that is a tool that is at our disposal, and we should take advantage of that. Our ability to communicate our thoughts in a beneficial way that will, for the rest of our lives, right? It all, my ability to communicate with my children, my ability to communicate with my colleagues, my ability to communicate with you and convey accurately is really important. So I say this because, especially as teenagers, and I can speak from experience with my boys, um, sometimes what is said is not what is intended. So it's very important that we focus on the communication aspect, right? And when we communicate with people, I believe we're all connected. We're all human beings. We're all connected. It is important to the person you're communicating with. That person feels that you see them, that you hear them, and that what they say matters. And once you establish that rapport with somebody, they will listen. Because in the end, when you want to convey your idea, you guys are beautiful teenagers, you're here, you're going to be setting out and venturing in the world, you are the leaders. And the one key um, power that you have, in addition to your many other beautiful powers, is your ability to communicate clearly. And again, it starts with when you're talking to a person. Are they feeling that you're seeing them, that you're hearing them, that what they say matters? And that is important. That is important because in order to get your counterpart, the person that you're speaking to, in order to have them hear you and listen, they first also have to feel that you're hearing them and that you're seeing them. So I really, really wanted to touch on that today because, again, you guys are setting out and venturing in the world, and you are the leaders. And if you have that tool of communicating with people, you're already ahead of the game. To take a step back, to pause when somebody is talking to you, um, to let them know that I'm here and I'm listening. Um, so I don't know in what you're doing how informal education. You guys are, I'm assuming, in schools. Informal education. We learn about math. We learn about science. We learn about um, history and English, right? But a very key element is the ability to communicate and convey our ideas. And while some schools may be better equipped than others, really that is not taught, the communication skill. So in your studies and in your life, take a moment and step back and um, hone those communication skills because they are incredibly valuable to you. And if you think about it, right, um, even when we go back a full circle and switch it to no justice, no peace, in essence, when we're chanting no justice, no peace, we're saying you're not hearing us. We're not getting our justice. We're, you know, so it all stems back to the element of communication. It's all at the base, at the core of everything is, do I feel that you're hearing me, that you're seeing me, that the issues that are on my heart and on my mind and that touch me deeply, are you hearing those? And I'm focusing on this because as a society, if if we don't establish that connection with one another, then it will affect everything like a domino effect, right? So even when I go to court as an attorney, the only way I can fight for my clients' rights and seek justice for them is based on my ability to communicate, my ability to communicate with the judge and convey um, in a in an intelligent, articulate way what it is that I'm seeking for my client. It is also my ability to communicate with the jury, who's ultimately going to rule and decide on the case. My ability to communicate with them is going to affect the results for my client. So it goes back to the element of communication, and even if I and to establish that connection, that rapport with the person, even if it's a judge and I'm not having a conversation with him as if I were to have it with a friend of mine, or the jury. It's more formal, but we can use our skills, our eye contact, our body language, um, our tone, our demeanor, to establish that rapport and that connection with people. And you might be saying, well, what are you talking about right now, Hala? I signed up for no justice, no peace. And, why are you talking about communicating and our ability to do that? Because it is connected. Because if language is powerful, language is powerful. And the choice of words matter. The the way in which we say those words matter. Um, so when we say no justice, no peace, we're communicating. We're communicating something. And then the issue is, how is it landing? How is it landing for those people who are hearing it, right? And we talked about, it depends. Some people may hear it and say, oh, that means it's a threat. If they don't get what they want, they're going to be violent. And others may take the definition that Dr. King put forth, which is, um, injustice anywhere means injustice everywhere. And when Dr. King explained that, it had no, um, at all, not even a scintilla of of evidence that it was referring to violence. So that is where that's coming from. It's our choice of words. Language is powerful. And if I say to you right now, if I say, look, I am hungry, that has one meaning. But if I say to you, I'm starving, right? It lands differently. It lands differently. So our ability to communicate, is a superpower, and our ability to build rapport with people is a superpower. And Dr. King accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, and that was, you know, the significance of that. I can't even, articulate. It's beyond. It was his ability to communicate. It was his ability to, with words, that he accomplished that. So that's why I'm relating this all to communication. Um, are there any questions? My beautiful moderator, what is happening? I'd like some to see what's happening here, and, um, if there's any questions in the beautiful people who might be watching or listening or both. Um, okay. Oh, okay. I see the note. Questions will be 10 minutes at the end. Oh, oh, there's a question. What happens if somebody bad mouths you? Thank you. That is a an amazing, beautiful question. Um, and I want to just clarify. Are you saying, what can I do if somebody bad mouths me? Is that the question? Uh, Marcel, if you can clarify that, but I'll talk about that. Um, that is an amazing question, because we do face conflict every day in our lives, right? Um, we do face conflicts from people that know us and people that don't know us, and people may, um, violate us, may disrespect us, and the question is, how do we handle that? What do we do, right? And again, I'm going to talk from personal experience. Um, as I said, I have two boys, both teenagers, and I had situations where of my sons would come home and say, um, you know, I was at the field and so said da 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 da, and that really, bothered me. And then I said da 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 da, and you know, initially, my my instinct as a mother, and, to want to protect my son, and for fear of, I don't want this situation to escalate. I don't want, hurtful words to escalate into, physical violence, God forbid, or something. And I would say, you know what? Um, just because somebody does something wrong, to react just like them, it's not a good thing, because now you're putting yourself at the same level. But the reality of it is that we're human beings, right? And we get emotional and we react. And, none of us want to be disrespected. And I'm just going to read the clock. When there is a conflict rising between other people, how do you know when to go in it? How do you stop a fight if there is no one else to stop it? Oh, again, amazing question. I'm going to answer that after I finish the first thought about what do you do when somebody badmouths you. So initially, Of course, in an ideal situation, I would tell my son, you know, walk away. Um, if they're bad mouthing you, that's on them. Don't, you know, um, don't get um, suckered into that. Don't get drawn into the negativity. And even using the phrase of Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. But the truth of the matter is that you guys are teenagers, and that's not always easy to do. That's not always easy to walk away from situations, especially if you feel you've been disrespected. And um, this is the guidance that I can give you, right? We can only control our own behavior, right? You cannot control other people's behavior, but you can set boundaries. You can set boundaries. If somebody invades you, and when I say invades you, I don't just necessarily mean physically, invades you by disrespecting you, by bad mouthing you, by calling out at you, you can and you should say, take a step back and say, stop. You will not talk to me this way. You have the right to protect yourself. Now, another thing that is important to note, when you don't get drawn into that, it's not, you have to put it in perspective. It's not that you're just taking the bad mouthing or the abuse. Think of it in the reverse. You're protecting yourself. You're stepping away because you don't want things to escalate, right? And then you would be put in a position where there would be worse consequences. So I say focus on yourself and what you can do because you can't control the other person. I'm just going to read the there are okay. When there is a conflict rising between two people, how do you know when to go in? How do you stop a fight if there is no one else to stop it? Okay, excellent question. And I'm glad these questions are coming because this is the reality. And this is, you know, probably the, things that affect teenagers on a daily basis. So, first of all, I will put out there that first and foremost is your physical and mental well being. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where, God forbid, you will be physically hurt, right? Now, if you see two people fighting and there is nobody to stop it, first of all, I think it depends on the situation. I never believe that you should put yourself in harm's way. I would my first inclination would be if I can call out to somebody, if I can call to an adult, seek the help of somebody. You never want to put yourself in a situation where you might be held guilty by association. However, I understand the conflict within you because your moral compass is telling you, I don't want to see two people hurt each other, right? But on the one hand, and on the other hand, you're like, but if I get involved, now I might be dragged into a situation and that might have consequences for me. And if you're thinking that, you're right, then you're smart because we have an obligation to ourselves first, as well as to our brothers and sisters. But you never want to put yourself in harm's way. If there is a fight that's erupting, um, you know, you have to be, as much as you want to stop it, your first concern is you don't want to get harmed physically, right? You don't want those people to get hurt, and that's admirable, and you don't want that. So I would say assess the situation. Every situation is going to vary, and reach out for help. Um, Let me go to the last question. I want to address that. How do you stop a fight if there is no one else to stop it? Now, it is, even though we want to do the right thing and we have a moral obligation, don't take on more than you can handle. Can you stop a fight? Sometimes maybe you can't. Like I said, call for help. If it looks really bad, you might want to call the authorities for help. That's depending on the situation, but um, it is not all on you. Um, your you can only control your own behavior without. And if you want to get involved, and that's admirable, think about, where is this going to lead to me? And yes, we want to do the right thing. And yes, we don't want to sit there and watch while we see injustice. But you also have a moral obligation to protect yourself. I'm told there's 5 minutes, so I want to get to the last question. There are people who say snitching is bad. How do you feel about telling the truth when someone is threatening you? Okay. First and foremost, when somebody is threatening you, whether it's physically or verbally, you're being threatened, absolutely, without a doubt, seek help, and you have to tell somebody who can help you. You should never live in fear. Again, every situation varies. For example, I can tell you that if the teacher said there's no eating in class and you see your neighbor eating, are you going to tell? Of course not, because I think that's the definition of somebody who's trying to snitch. But if it's something major, if it's something that affects you, your safety, your health, or others' health, that is not snitching. That is not snitching. And the people that label it as snitching are those people who are doing the wrong thing, who want to justify their behavior and want to get away with it. So, and also, there are ways, in your schools, there's counselors, there's administration. You can tell anonymously. You can tell anonymously. You can talk to, if there's counsel, say, listen, I'm being threatened, and can you keep? There are ways, there are mechanisms where it's not advertised that you are the one who said, but definitely, guys, there's help out there, and if anybody is threatening your safety and well-being, absolutely, positively seek the help of somebody. That is not snitching. That is being smart. That is, you looking out for yourself and loving yourself. And that's where don't think that it's snitching. Absolutely not. You should never be living in fear. You should never be living in fear and under threat. I hope this helps you. I thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you. You are absolute leaders. I can't see you, but by virtue of the fact that you're participating in this summit, speaks volumes about all of you. And again, my name is Hala Jaloudi. I will, my email, I'll leave in the chat my email. If you guys have any questions, if you want to reach out to me, I would love to continue to talk to you. There's my email. Thank you, Mersau. You're amazing. My moderator. You guys are wonderful, beautiful. Enjoy the rest of the summit. And my email is in the chat. If anybody needs to reach out to me, I am here. Enjoy the summit. You guys are amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much.